Welcome, I'm Dave Kirkland, pastor of Dulin Church, and as we begin our service, head over to our Facebook page at Dulin Falls Church and hit the like button. And on our YouTube channel, like the video and subscribe. Let's reach out and make our presence known in the community and the world. It's up to you. Grace and peace to the name of Jesus Christ, and welcome to Church at Dulin. So tonight we have what's called the 7 last words of Christ. Its origins come from a service that was called a service of tenebrae, a service of shadows. And so tonight we're going to have 7 Dulin disciples who will read each of the 7 last words and then have a brief reflection on that particular word. There'll be some music interspersed as well throughout the service. And then at the end of the service, we will leave in silence. So again, we're glad that you're here for this very special night in the life of the church.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. These are the first of the 7 last words that Christ uttered from the cross as he died that day for us. It had been a week of stark contrasts. Jesus had been joyously welcomed with palms and crowds exclaiming that he was the Son of God, only to be betrayed by Judas, denied by Peter, condemned to die by Pontius Pilate, hatefully beaten, crowned with thorns, nailed to this cross of execution that mockingly labeled him Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, and placed between 2 common thieves, stripped of his clothes as death closed in around him. And yet, as he endured this unimaginable physical and emotional pain, his first words sought forgiveness for the soldiers gambling for his clothes, for those who jeered him as he suffered, for those who had chanted, "Crucify him," and betrayed and denied him. Why were these his first words? What is the lesson in this foundational message that Jesus gave us that day as he fulfilled God's promise to send his Son to deliver us from sin and death? Forgiveness, it's a tall order. I feel challenged often to forgive when I feel hurt or disrespected, left out or shaken by others' actions. At the same time, I struggle seeking forgiveness when I have been hurtful or thoughtless, careless or forgetful of those around me. In these times of social unrest, we also face national and global challenges to our ability to share common truths that are not driven by our politics, to protect each other's well-being through the lens of science, and to value each person we meet for who they are and not what they bring, instead of their shape, color, preference, or nationality. And in that atmosphere, we are called to forgive. I also struggle with the role of accountability, the self-awareness and empathy that I often feel is required in this exchange of forgiveness, owning one's mistakes and asking for forgiveness. And often, an expectation of demonstrated accountability on the road to forgiveness can lead to a hesitancy to forgive and a determination for self-defined justice. A casual or shallow forgiveness can result that seeks to just temporarily smooth over the conflict. As we say the Lord's Prayer, I have often struggled with this line, "And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others who trespass against us." To me, God reminds us in the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray that we have a responsibility to forgive. It is important and fundamental to our faith journey as Christians. The kind of forgiveness that Jesus modeled that day in his first words from the cross, that was so all-encompassing it reached out to those who had not asked for it and were not even self-aware of their heinous transgressions. It was forgiveness without judgment, forgiveness without acknowledgement of culpability, forgiveness without worthiness. Jesus did not just demonstrate casual forgiveness that day, and neither does the Lord's Prayer reflect a cavalier approach. He forgave those who had perpetrated such harm against the Son of God without reservation and without request. To forgive without reservation in such a moment is almost beyond human comprehension. This, I believe, was part of the message Jesus conveyed that day on the cross. Forgiveness offers mercy, even when it is not asked for or even deserved. Forgiveness opens our heart to the possibilities that wrong may lie on the other side, that our accountability and worthiness in seeking forgiveness is not determinative because Jesus died for us. And also, he reminds us that in forgiving others, we are forgiven. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. Let us take these words of Jesus and remember day to day the critical importance in our lives and in our world to practice active forgiveness for those around us and also to strive to be worthy of forgiveness.
The second word, truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Of all the 7 last words of Jesus, this second one is probably the one I've thought the least about over the years. However, every time I've read it over the past couple of weeks, it has given me a sense of both hope and of peace. Jesus is talking to one of the criminals hanging on the cross next to him. This man, as he is soon to die, fully understands who Jesus is. Jesus, who must have been in excruciating pain, says these words to him, "Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." There was likely a lot of noise and yelling and commotion around the 3 crosses. However, it was almost like Jesus and this criminal were already in a different realm than the others. This is part of why this passage brings me peace, the knowledge of the paradise that awaits us when we die, no matter what chaos or commotion is going on around us. Through God's grace, we have this paradise to look forward to. We've all lived through a year that very few of us could have imagined, but through it all, the promise of God's paradise remains. Jesus' words weren't said to one of his most faithful followers. They were said to a criminal hanging on a cross simply because he believed. This promise of God's paradise is available to all of us. For me personally, this passage brings me a lot of peace because I know that included in that paradise is my husband Carl, and I'll be reunited with him once again. The turmoil in my heart is calmed by knowing that God's paradise awaits me too. That's where the sense of peace comes in. No matter what happens here on earth, what's to come is far greater, and I can not only get through the months and years between now and when I enter that paradise, but I can find joy in the here and now because of what's to come. And that's where the hope comes in, that feeling of expectation, the hope of God's paradise. When Jesus says, "You will be with me in paradise," he doesn't say, "You will go to paradise," but "with me." He's assuring the criminal, and I think all of us, that we will not be alone. That "with me" part is what also fills me with hope, knowing I will one day go to paradise with Jesus, with God, and with all the people I've loved who've gone before me. Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
The third words, John 19:26. Woman, behold your son, behold your mother. These words and the scenes they depict remind us that as Christians, we have a responsibility to take care of others who may not be able to take care of themselves fully or at all, in the moment, short term, or permanently. In this familiar passage, Jesus, who is very close to physical death on the cross, asks his favorite disciple, John, to take care of his mother, Mary, after he, Jesus, is gone. It is a very tender moment, but it is also a moment when Jesus, exercising his responsibility as the eldest son in his family, ensures that his mother would not have to fend for herself in a world that was not kind to women, especially widows. I have been the beneficiary of more caring actions than I could describe in a full day, much less in the few moments I have here. They have come from every imaginable source: family, friends, acquaintances, colleagues, bosses, total strangers. And they have come in so many forms: a kind word, an arm around my shoulder, a nice note, a prayer said on my behalf over the phone. In anticipation of their death, my parents did two things to assure that my three siblings and I would remain in right relationship after they were gone. The first thing they did was to instill in us, as best they could, the core values of Christianity and a deep love of family. The second thing they did was to ensure in their will, through a very detailed process, that their property was to be divided as equally as possible. Both parents had come from families where there had been hard feelings over who got what when the parents died. Woman, behold your son, behold your mother.
The fourth word, Mark chapter 15, verse 34. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why did Jesus cry out these words? Was it an expression of his physical pain, an exclamation? Or in that moment, did Jesus feel that God had actually abandoned him? The words Jesus spoke come from the first verse of Psalm 22. It continues, I have cried desperately for help, but still it does not come. During the day I call to you, my God, but you do not answer. Psalm 22 describes someone who is suffering, whose strength is gone, whose bones are disjointed, surrounded by an evil pack of dogs tearing at his hands and feet. These are vivid descriptions of someone being tortured. But even worse, no one comes to help them. They are ignored, discarded, helpless, hopeless. I've had some hard times in my life: the death of loved ones, physical pain from injury, loss of a relationship. But even in the darkest times, I've had the reassurance that God is there for me, that God is with me, bringing me through those dark, awful valleys. I experience God's presence through love and care of my friends and family, those who support me with their physical presence and with their prayers. But on the cross, a form of death I can barely even think about, Jesus experiences something much more devastating to him than his physical pain. He is suffering alone, cut off from God, the source of life and love. Not only have his disciples betrayed and denied him, Jesus is alienated from God. Suffering alone without God's presence to comfort or sustain him, Jesus experiences the hopeless emptiness of his broken connection with God. What could possibly come between Jesus the Son and God the Father? Sin. It's the same thing that can come between us and our relationship with God. On the cross, Jesus took on the crushing weight of our sin, the sin of the whole world. Our sin created his suffering, not his own. Jesus knows how it feels to be forgotten, rejected, abandoned, forsaken, hopeless. He experienced the very depth of that brokenness on our behalf. He experienced it so we don't ever have to know what that's like. Thanks be to God.
The fifth word, John 19, verse 28, I thirst. When I was asked to speak about thirst, the thing I thought about, it's such a descriptive word. It brings back such vivid memories as a kid when I was playing basketball in the warm weather until I was thirsting for not water, but we would drink big gulps, not exactly the healthiest. As an adult, hiking an Antietam battlefield with my son. So just in the hot weather, and it was just the word thirst makes me think about that. But I prefer to focus on a different type of thirst. And it's more of the spirit, the soul. I want to take you back. This is about 5-6 years ago. I was in my previous job, and it was a job that it paid well, and that was about the best thing I could say about it. I felt empty, I felt parched, dry, and didn't really know how to get out of it or what to do. And it took me almost 18 months for that nudge from God to find something else to do, to find something else to do with my life. And what I ended up founding was to serve others. And that became my job, and I work at Free Minds. And it's not only do I do what I've been trained to do, which is in finance and accounting, but it's been so much different other things, helping the members on a daily basis, our incarcerated members, and also formerly incarcerated members, doing such things as helping them prepare their taxes. This season, I've prepared over 15 members' tax returns and helped them, with getting nearly $15,000 total in refunds, helping members get stimulus checks last year. It's such an intimidating world for them when they come out, and helping them get stimulus checks, setting up computers, helping them to bridge the digital divide, going on college visits for our really young members. That has been kind of a sneak preview for what I'm going to encounter with my son in a couple years. Assisting members in getting housing, and so many even mundane things such as navigating the DMV. A member of ours had gotten a couple tickets, and he had a good reason why he shouldn't be getting the tickets, and I had to help him file appeals. So many other things, and it's been such a good experience, and it has really, my soul it's not as thirsty, but can do so much more. So I just want to close, when we offer a cup of cold water to those in need, we are giving water to Jesus on the cross. We are quenching his thirst. When we serve others in Jesus' name, when we are helping to quench human need, we are serving Jesus himself. Thanks be to God.
The seventh word, it is finished. Jesus' last words meant that his suffering was over and that the whole work his Father had given him to do, which was to preach the gospel, work miracles, obtain eternal salvation for his people, was done, accomplished, fulfilled. The debt of sin was paid. Because of what Jesus finished, you and I are never really finished. We have hope for this life and for the next. In our modern day lives, it often feels like our work is never truly finished. We all seek to strike those items off our to-do list, taxes and chores and appointments, and it feels good when we complete such tasks. We seek closure and finality. But with the spiritual and emotional work to do, it is often more difficult to know when the true work is done. Jesus' death gives us so much hope and faith, but when it comes to the work God calls us to do, it will not be clear that we have finished until God's grace determines we are through. As a parent, I understand this more than ever. You may have seen around Falls Church this year that my 16-year-old son Matthew and I are doing driving lessons, even here in the Dulin parking lot. One day recently, Matthew pointed out that this project is really one of the last official things that a parent has to teach their child. So he said, "You're almost done, Mom." It dawned on me that while some concrete tasks may seem complete, the fundamental calling stays with us forever, just like God's love. While a parent may be able to pass many specific milestones with their child, like getting a driver's license or graduations or weddings, That deep love and support and care will only continue to grow every day until God calls us home. My sincere hope is that when that time comes, we all can have the comfort of knowing that our work is finished in matters of the heart and the things that matter, just as Jesus did that day on the cross.
Arise, my soul, arise. Shake off thy guilty fears. The pleading sacrifice in my behalf appears. Before the throne my surety stands, before my throne my surety stands. My name is written on his hands. My name is written on his hands. Five bleeding wounds he bears, received on Calvary. They pour effectual prayers, they strongly plead for me. Forgive him, oh forgive, they cry. Forgive him, oh forgive, they cry. Lord, let the ransomed sinner die. Nor let that ransomed sinner die. My God is reconciled, his pardoning voice I hear. He owns me for his child, I can no longer fear. With confidence I now draw nigh, with confidence I now draw nigh. And Father above, Father cry, Father cry. Arise, my soul, arise. And Father above, Father cry. Arise, my soul, arise.
The final words of Christ, Luke 23, verse 46. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. They could as well have been his first words, and for that matter, his only words. I view sin as our separation from God. In his final words, as he is crucified for our sins, his final thought is his and our connection with his and our Father. It is that connection and reconnection through his resurrection that opens an opportunity for us. Jesus died for us so that we could have a relationship with our Creator Father. And it isn't just about some future salvation. It is about the here and now, a relationship that has an inward journey, where through our faith we come to know God, and an outward journey, where through our action God comes to know us. Someone once wrote that you don't get into heaven without a reference letter from the poor. The story of the sheep and goats in Matthew 25 is testament to that view. God calls us into community with him, with our families, our neighbors, and with strangers. He calls us to look for him among the weak, the poor, the elderly, the sick, the imprisoned. With so much pain and division in our world today, from the pandemic to gun violence to social, economic, and racial injustices, Jesus' final words compel me to recommit to a relationship with his Father and his creation, our community, and those in need. Thanks be to God.